The only Godzilla movie I've ever seen.
What?
That's all you had to say? Generic intro and theduckgoesmoo here, back with another What Happened video. Today we're doing Godzilla 1998, which I believe the name was changed to Zilla. It is the only Godzilla thing I have ever seen outside of YouTube videos, and it's the only Godzilla movie I have ever seen. But I've been going through these Matt McMuscles What Happened videos. I've done two of them so far, one being Sonic 2006, the other one being Sonic Boom, which was last week's video. You want to check out my reaction to that, I'll leave it right up there. Also, link down below in the description, and if I continue doing this series, there should be a playlist on my channel going in chronological order. But apparently this movie was really bad. I obviously did not know because I watched this movie as a kid. I was born in 1997, so I definitely watched when I was a little bit older. I didn't necessarily hate it. I was actually scared of it. I didn't understand what Godzilla even was. This was my depth. When I thought of Godzilla, I thought of this movie because it's my only time ever seen, until I watched like the Death Battle, I think, talking about Godzilla, and I was like, whoa. Or maybe it was the Nostalgia Critic video. I'm not really sure, but I enjoyed this series. I enjoy the way Matt does these videos. I love seeing behind the scenes in what happens, and like Sonic Boom. Oh my god, that was rough. That was wild to even see. But apparently even good things have trouble development, like with Doom 2016, I believe. So maybe we'll do that one in the future, but this one was a really liked comment on the last video. I do read the art comments, leave them down below. If you see one you agree with, definitely like it as well. And if you enjoyed the video, a like is always appreciated. It actually helps the channel out quite a lot. I was just looking at the analytics, and likes seem to be really important. So if you enjoyed the video, likes are always appreciated. Patrons allow this channel to exist. $3 a month gets you all my reaction videos a day early. I'm completely against paywalls, and you don't see brand deals on the channel either. But let's go ahead and jump into Godzilla 1998. What happened? The only Godzilla movie I've ever seen. Nah. That's a dope intro. That is not a generic intro. What happened?
Hello and welcome to the horrible, hallowed halls of What Happened, a show where we analyze and agonize over the biggest bungles of the video game industry.
What? I actually thought something was wrong with my Xbox for a second.
The biggest bungles of the entertainment industry, that is. A lot of you have suggested it, and a lot of you are getting it, because we're
Zilla
branching out to the realm
of
cinema.
That was the, not the bees, not the bees.
Unlike those silly toys for children. And what better place to start than
Godzilla,
one of the most monstrous Hollywood misfires of the 90s. A movie
that's
where
a lot of fish.
Pretty much every decision made was the wrong one. It halted the production of planned sequels dead in their tracks.
I went like... what? I don't know when I did the first video. It was
the careers of two filmmakers,
like either 22 or 23 years old.
Japanese originators of the franchise so much
thinking that this was
took
Godzilla.
A few swipes back in retaliation. So, Godzilla 1998. What happened?
I'm actually very curious.
Into this radioactive quagmire properly, we have to set things up with the proper amount of context.
Also, apparently they're
and
making another
history
Shrek movie.
the King of the Monsters
Somehow I
rightly
called
deserves.
that.
So let's rewind back to the magically 90s year of 1992.
Oh wow, way before I was
Toho
born.
is swinging into high with their second era of Godzilla films.
Also,
known
for
as
reference,
the
I recorded the
Heisei
last
series,
video
and we're
on
wrapping up post-production
the 17th.
on Godzilla vs. Mothra, a warmly regarded reboot featuring the benevolent moth goddess. Henry Saperstein, who had distributed many of Toho's films for decades, finally convinced the Japanese studio to allow him to pitch an American version of the Tokusatsu franchise to Hollywood, as he felt there was a lot of potential for the character to gain appeal across the globe. Things, unfortunately, started out rougher than anger is hide, as both Columbia and TriStar Pictures rejected the pitch, before Henry finally landed a deal at Sony Pictures. The then CEO, Peter Goober, was... Peter Goober.
Oh, Goofy Goober!
Was enthusiastic at the idea.
Also, why do you have a Golden State
and,
Warriors
ironically
there?
enough, assigned Sony-owned TriStar Pictures to produce a quick jaunt back to Japan to seal the deal with Toho.
Also, that's not the way they would go. They would go
announcing their plans for an American take on Godzilla in October of that year. Jan de Bont was hired to helm the feature. His first
is it
as
because
a director,
they didn't want to
as he
do
was
it?
previously the DP on such films as Cujo, Die Hard, and The Hunt for Red October. The initial script, which focused on
Red
such
October, like the
wild
shoes?
ideas as Goji's origin revolving around
That's
Atlantis
Aquaman, right? I haven't seen
and
it.
an antagonistic monster named the Griffin, was penned by one Terry Rossio and Ted Elliott, a writing duo who had worked on Disney's Aladdin and
I've
would
never
go
seen it.
on to the Pirates of the Caribbean
I've seen a couple of those.
franchise. It was an ambitious but fantastical take on the source material, with Jan de Bont asking for a reported $100 to $120 million to film it.
Oh, wow.
Stan Winston Studios responsible for such practical effects and suits for films like The Predator, Terminator, and Aliens already began building maquettes for this new Godzilla, which was unfortunately all for naught. Budgetary disputes raged between Jan de Bont and TriStar, which eventually led to the whole thing collapsing. Unable to come
They
to
tried
terms,
to do it
de
right.
Bont
Okay.
exited the project
But then budget.
and would go on to make his directorial debut with Speed.
Anything else that'll keep this elevator from falling?
The basement.
Godzilla languished in development hell for almost 2 years until the producing/directing duo of Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich started getting noticed within Hollywood.
But
Their credits included films such as Universal Soldier
Never
and
heard of it.
Stargate, and
I've heard
at
of
that time were
Stargate.
still finishing up their third film,
Independence Day.
Independence Day.
Yeah.
TriStar approached them
Seen that
about
one.
picking up their flailing Godzilla baby even before ID4 hit the theaters. They initially passed, with Devlin explaining, "Both of us thought it was a dopey idea the first time we talked. Then when TriStar came back with a second offer, we still thought it was a dopey
why'd they do it?
idea. So why did the duo eventually get the gig? Well, since TriStar was desperate to finally get the project off the ground, both filmmakers realized they could
TriStar
basically
didn't want
ask
to do
for
it, didn't
anything,
they?
including complete creative control in all aspects of writing and production.
what do you mean?
If you needed to
That
point
was-
at
this
one
is just money?
singular decision that could be construed as the linchpin of disaster, yeah, this would be it.
It's the clue.
Their first order of business was to throw
White House
out
down.
Rossio and Elliott's script, with Emmerich stating, "It had some cool things in it, but it's something I never would have done. The last half was just two monsters going at it. I simply don't like
so
that."
it was supposed to be like Godzilla.
The pair decided to make their own.
Isn't
script
Godzilla
from
movies
scratch
just
and completed
Godzilla
the
fighting,
first draft in just 5
like,
weeks,
other
with the only
monsters, not
connective
Godzilla
tissue
destroying
to
the
Toho's
city? Well,
franchise
kind of
being
happens
Godzilla
anyway.
was a creature of the atom, having been formed due to nuclear fallout. I didn't want to
What,
make a
Bikini
traditional
Atoll?
Godzilla. I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to make my own.
You don't-
We then
I don't
asked
think you really
ourselves
get to
what
do
we
that
would
with
do today
Godzilla,
with a
the king of
monster movie
monsters.
and a story like that. We forgot everything about the original Godzilla right there. Now, while the 1994 version of the script certainly had a lot
That
of
quote,
big changes,
that quote,
it also
yeah.
leaned heavily into the realm of fantasy, and since the Toho films didn't shy away from things like androids, time travel, space battles,
Godzilla gets a jetpack?
pollution, crab
Sick.
monsters, and dancing, it's safe to say
That'd
that this
be
new script's
like a
focus
TikTok
on a
dance.
more grounded and realistic world was a little risky. To accommodate
So-
this new direction, Devlin and Emmerich also threw
Maybe
out Stan
it-
Winston's designs, and again,
Were they trying to,
decided
like, make
their
this a
own.
new
The only
Independence
mandate
Day?
Being,
Maybe?
it needs to run incredibly fast
You know,
for some reason. Emmerich again explains his baffling
it's
non-logic.
really just a dinosaur.
I saw the
I went my,
creature
like,
that
entire
they
life
designed.
thinking Godzilla was a
Jan de Bont
dinosaur.
created a Godzilla that was very close to the original, but it was not right, because today we wouldn't do it like that.
What do you mean?
Okay.
This is
Feature
Saitama.
designer Patrick Tatopoulos,
Dr. Topopopoulos, it's the Topolis.
who at that time had worked on such films as Bram Stoker's Dracula and the Super Mario Brothers movie,
Oh,
I'll let that sit,
a different one? I saw a
was
different
hired
one.
to redesign
One that
the
recently came
legendary
out.
monster.
I still think I have
Suffice
that
to say,
DVD.
he took a very different approach.
Somebody
saying
send it to the P.O.
What
box.
they did, which was a mistake in my mind, was rather than going in a new direction, they tried to alter and make the old one better. And when you do that, first of all, I think it's very disrespectful.
To Godzilla.
It's more disrespectful for me to alter something existing than to take a fresh new direction. Is that really how that works? Regardless, even though the deal had been
Oh, that was like
between
Little Baby,
Sony
wasn't
Pictures
it?
and Toho,
Or the
Toho
eggs,
would
yeah.
have final approval on any new Godzilla designs. Devlin, Emmerich, Totopoulos, and the Funky Bunch presented sketches and a maquette to Toho chairman Isao Matsuoka, producers Shogo Tomiyama, and special effects director Koichi Matsuoka.
There's a picture of him. Okay. And they
the trio remained silent for several long minutes before asking if they could reconvene the next day.
The next day?
Emmerich would state they were speechless. They stared at it for several minutes and asked us to come back tomorrow. I thought for sure we didn't have the movie then. Tomiyama recalled,
but then
it was just so different. We realized we couldn't even make slight adjustments. That left the major question on
did they just do it because they're just like,
or not.
Maybe that's just what will work in America.
Wanting to hold up production any longer, Toho signed off on Godzilla's new look the very next day.
I don't know what that torpedo was going to do.
All clear from Toho, casting began for the film, which would go on to become its own huge issue. In the mid-90s, the summer blockbuster was becoming the big bankable bet for movie studios, which usually had big names attached to them, either behind the lens or in front of it.
Gump.
You have your Steven Spielbergs, your Jim Carreys, or your Tom Cruises, and the like. Who did Godzilla have? Ferris Bueller and 60% of the characters from The Simpsons.
Wait, really?
The cast of Godzilla was head-scratching,
I've also never watched
to say the least.
Simpsons.
Our pro-tag, Matthew Broderick, was hot off the failure
of
the Cable Guy.
Well, you may be the wrong man for the job, but I think you're cute.
Moe and Ken Brockman were cast as a cab driver and a TV news anchor, and Jean Reno, a relatively unknown actor in North America at that time, played a French Secret Service agent trying to cover up his country's role in creating Godzilla. Not to be outdone, other problems would plague the production, most egregious being the incredibly tight schedule, as TriStar wanted to hit Memorial Weekend 1998, leaving Devlin and Emmerich exactly 1 year for production and post-production. Jurassic Park had released only a few years prior, and CG was still kind of wearing its training wheels, so having less than a year to create a completely computer-generated character was a bit insane.
You okay?
Why all the noise made for Memorial Weekend, you ask?
Yeah, why? What was the big deal?
It was fast becoming the most desirable date for big blockbusters to debut on, as again, The Lost World Jurassic Park had made over $70 million the year prior.
On just Memorial Day, or
Patrick Totopoulos' crew made a massive animatronic puppet of Godzilla for certain shots, and even made a suit for a stuntman to wear, but in the end, both techniques were rejected, and CGI was used in their stead. While the production was working at a breakneck pace, the
at least they tried other
things.
things.
Godzilla wasn't far behind. Merchandise, t-shirts, posters, all the expected stuff.
I wonder if these are worth anything
was
today.
Massive, and it had the various scientists in the film armed with cannons and vehicles. Remember this guy?
I mean, toys were a big deal back then, weren't they?
Of course you don't, but he got a figure too. Bus ads, Taco Bell tie-ins, you name it, they slapped Godzilla's big, goofy dog.
Oh, that's a Chihuahua dog? Taco Bell dog? Yep, the Taco Bell dog.
All of this, however, pales in comparison to the greatest music video of all time.
Diddy.
Puff Daddy and Jimmy Page finally came together and angrily played a song in Godzilla's face until everything exploded. All of this was fluff, however, as the movie was furiously being edited up until the 11th hour, leading to that big release date. While it was not known at the time, Roland Emmerich would later state he was against TriStar's decision regarding early test screenings, which are normally conducted months ahead of time in case they need to adjust things.
And they didn't have time because of the time crunch.
Effects. Godzilla received no screenings of the sort, which
None?
boded all sorts of bad. The movie finally hit theaters on May 20th, 1998, amidst a torrent of manufactured hype due to the aforementioned merchandising and marketing machine.
Look at the stock prices.
Actual, real, palatable hype was a bit subdued, as again, there was no real established actors in American
they have brain deals in this?
unfamiliar with Godzilla could rally around. The look of the big G.
So they tried to be like Jurassic Park,
sci-fi,
Independence Day,
fans, with many unfavorable comparisons being drawn to the original Toho monster. Now, North America had seen a gamut of Godzilla media over the years, including the Hanna-Barbera cartoon, early 90s toy lines, video games, comics, and some VHS releases, so Even the most
Mothra,
casual fan knew what Godzilla kind of looked like and how he did things downtown.
And maybe I didn't
Therefore,
because
it was no surprise
this.
that Roland Emmerich's version of Godzilla took a critical shellacking from critics.
Colonel, your campaign's a disaster.
Paper-thin, cartoony characters, cringy dialogue and humor, an over-reliance on CGI, wonky
What was the
pacing,
budget for this?
disappointing fight scenes, a much smaller and weaker version of the title
That
character.
looks nothing like
The
Godzilla.
list is pretty extensive. But, you know, uneven plots and boring characters are usually hallmarks of the Godzilla films. But the issue here is that when the monster does show up, things don't
What a
get
kind of like a
much
Daytona.
better. The unstoppable force of nature that could decimate anything with its atomic breath was replaced with a simple-minded animal that
eats
spent
fish.
most of the movie's running time just fleeing from the military.
For some reason.
These same
Not sure why it
sentiments
is.
were echoed by various people at Toho. Godzilla's suit actor Kenpachiro Satsuma, who played the monster during the Heisei era, walked out of a screening at a Godzilla
walked
convention
out of the
in
screening?
1998, muttering, "It's not Godzilla. It doesn't have his spirit."
That's all you had to say?
Shusuke Kaneko, who
Bro
directed
probably
the
could rant for
successful
an hour
90s
about
trilogy
it.
of Gamera films, stated, "It is interesting that the U.S. version of Godzilla runs about trying to escape
Trying to put down
missiles.
yeah.
Americans seem unable to accept a creature that cannot be put down by their arms."
That's actually a fair
Toho
point.
would immediately try to discredit Emmerich's film in various ways,
Mm-hmm.
with the first and most prominent one being fast-tracking a new Godzilla production that would hit Japanese theaters just 1 year
That would
later.
basically be
Dubbed
like a
Godzilla
parody of it.
Millennium or Godzilla 2000 in the West.
Millennium is a
This was
great
an
name.
attempt to try and salvage the franchise and show that Toho could bring back the true Godzilla spirit.
I mean,
Just a
didn't
few
what
years later,
Godzilla
in
minus
2001
one just come out
Godzilla
like last year
GMK,
and it did really
two
good?
government officials could be heard saying,
あれ結局ゴジラだったんだろう。
アメリカじゃゴジラと名付けた。日本の学者は認
But
め
not in Japan.
"Oh, the heat." And of course, most
I mean,
famously, in Godzilla
could-
Final Wars,
can
the
they- is there even a
1998
rebuttal to
version of the
that?
creature officially became Zilla, as that suffix could be attributed to other creatures, marking them as Godzilla bootlegs.
Oh,
Up until this point, the unofficial fan name for the oversized iguana was Gino,
really?
which isn't a moniker that needs much explanation. Regardless of what you call it, Gino Zilla got its shit easily bopped on by Final Wars Goji in a matter of seconds. So,
Makes
yeah,
sense. Doesn't have atomic
suffice
breath.
to say, Toho held
Also,
the
wasn't that the
grudge.
Sydney Opera House?
Now, despite all this, the most
last thing Australia needs
outrageous fact
is
about
Godzilla.
Godzilla in 1998 is its budget. It's been stated that the film cost, before
How much?
marketing, between $130 and $150 million.
In the late 90s.
Considerably more than the 100 to 120 Jan de Bont requested just a few years
Wait,
earlier.
so they turned down-
Why TriStar and Sony Pictures agreed to a budget that was even higher than the previous attempt is anyone's guess. The most common thinking being, since Devlin and Emmerich were such an up-and-coming duo who had helmed several
they
other films,
could just do-
TriStar felt it was a safer bet than spending a lot of money on a first-time director like Jan de Bont. Speaking
So instead
of
they
money,
gave
the
even
film
more
would
to-
open to around $50 million over its first weekend and would eventually go
Okay.
on to make $300 million worldwide.
What?
Although this was considered by industry analysts
that a success?
failure and simply not enough for Sony to hedge their bets on to start a trilogy of films,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was the original plan.
They got a
Sony
mulligan
would
on that
also
one.
need to keep licensing Toho's character each year to keep their deal going. And, you know, funnily enough, they didn't re-up it to make more films after this one.
I wonder why.
However, some of the proposed ideas that Dean Devlin drafted up for sequels made their way into Godzilla the Series, a Saturday morning cartoon following the characters from the film, teaming up with a young Godzilla hatchling that quickly grew to full size to fight a rogues gallery of all original kaiju. This series,
I
despite
mean-
being stuck with the trappings of the movie, is considered by many
just
to
run at the
be
building.
a
Okay, it's a
better
very sturdy building.
alternative than the subject
It
matter
is what
it's
the Empire
based
State
on.
Building.
Then there was Rob Fried, who helped acquire the rights for TriStar. He was angered how the studio handled the property, fuming furiously. The Sony executive team that took over Godzilla was one of the worst cases of executive incompetence I've observed in my 20-year career.
There has to be bigger movie
One of the golden
failures,
assets of our
right?
time, which was hand-delivered to them, was managed as poorly and as ineptly
I don't know. People
as
keep
anybody
suggesting other
could
What
manage
Happened
an
videos.
asset. They took a jewel and turned
I'm
it
very
into
intrigued
dust.
learning about this.
Emmerich and Devlin, well,
I really
they
wonder how
would
Matt
never
even
really
finds all this
recover
stuff
from the
out.
debacle and languished for years with similarly panned disaster films like 10,000 BC, 2012, Geostorm, and etc.
Oh, Independence Day
essentially
Resurgence.
killed Godzilla's westward push for more
I just
than
did
a
a nostalgia
decade,
critic for that like
until
3 weeks
Legendary
ago.
Pictures released their own version in 2014. Toho was originally wary of licensing the character again, but since their Millennium series of Goji films failed at the Japanese box office,
Oh, it did?
they
The
felt it was
2000?
worth another shot. Legendary's Godzilla would go on to a $500 million haul worldwide, reestablish the character once again.
I'm sorry, did
kick
you just
off
atomic
the
breath
understated
into the...
but nonetheless successful MonsterVerse, which will culminate in King Kong vs. Godzilla in 2020.
There's been
Toho
multiple of those,
was
haven't
pleased
there?
with Legendary's efforts, stating that they felt the character was finally done justice, which spurred them into hatching plans for their own connected series of kaiju films. Shin Godzilla, their latest live-action reboot, did fantastically
Well, I think Shin Godzilla
but
did
as
good,
of
right?
right now, Toho has no plans to make a sequel for.
But
And
they
the
did
less said
Godzilla
about
minus
the
one.
anime trilogy, the better.
The anime
when
trilogy.
You look back
What?
at everything, though, it really
What?
is a testament to the longevity of the monster Toho created, where a disastrous, critically reviled motion picture was not enough to kill the franchise. Any lesser character who had stumbled so hard out of the gate would have been delegated to the dustbin of history right there. But thankfully for us, our giant radioactive overlord will be terrorizing theaters for decades to come. If you know of any other bombastic movie bombs you'd like to see on What Happened, let me know in the comments below.
Yeah, let me
check
know.
out the Flophouse VIP Patreon to officially vote on upcoming subjects. See you next time, and thanks for watching.
Oh god, the screaming. There's like 12 seconds. Okay. This is a great video. Oh, yep, Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 2006. That was the first What Happened video that I did. Okay. What is this? What is this Godzilla? Godzilla PS4. Oh, okay. But yeah, like I said, this was suggested in the comment section of last week's video, which was Sonic Boom, which that was mind-blowing. The mistakes that were made. Also, Godzilla was PG-13. Has Godzilla always been PG-13? I guess maybe it's supposed to. Maybe it's actually supposed to be less than that. I guess it's supposed. Who is it supposed to appeal to? This was like OG Godzilla supposed to appeal to like adults, teenagers, young adults, old adults, kids. I don't know, because I know they made a lot of toys and games and stuff like that, so maybe, I have no idea. But I do look forward to reading your comments, because I do read every single one of them. If you like the video, a like is always appreciated, and I look forward to watching the next one of these. Let me know what it should be based off the comment section, because I'll check the comment section when I go to record the next one of these, as long as it's okay with Matt, because I enjoy these videos quite a lot. The original video is always the top link down below in the description. You can definitely go check it out. Maybe go check out some other What Happened videos. But until next one, take care, and cue the music.
We were playing as soldiers, making swords.